think I must be dreaming. I visited pirates today. Pirates in the middle of a desert. It's as ridiculous as it sounds. Landlocked pirates who've built themselves a ship of stone and iron on a mesa in the middle of a canyon. They dress in pirate garb and call themselves the Black Hand.
Exiles come from many paths, but they all share one thing. They stand accused of a crime. And in the Hyborian age, when rich ocean trade routes connect all the great nations of the world, there are perhaps no criminals as vicious or as pervasive as pirates. From the great western ocean to the southern sea, along the Black Coast and upon the Villette, fortunes are won and lost at sword point on the rolling decks of ships. The navies of the great seafaring nations of Argos, Zingara, and Turan are always hunting these freebooters, trying to protect their merchant ships. Life is cheap in the Hyborian age, and men are sentenced to death for crimes far pettier than piracy. But a ruler who sells criminals to Tochamon and his exiled lands can squeeze some profit out of them, while still ensuring that they never return. And so captured pirates soon came to number among the exiles. To these people of the sea, there was perhaps no punishment greater than to be cast out into the desert. Everything they knew was stripped away, replaced by sandstorms and parched throats and the hungry eyes of hyenas. In the daily struggle to survive, it is easy for exiles to forget who they once were altogether, shedding their old identities as they sink into barbarism. It takes a strong will to resist, to hold on to one's old self. One such strong-willed exile was Jameelah, whom some called the Pirate Queen.
When I was exiled here, like the others, I was adrift, directionless. On the Vilayet, I always knew our heading. There was always another Turanian sail to burn, another fortune to be won. But here, I needed a new course.
Jameelah was a vicious corsair, known as far away as Shem as the Butcher of Khwarazm. Her raids on the wealthy coast of Turan had made her a legend, and though she had been captured and forced into exile, she refused to admit defeat. She knew how to command pirates, how to keep them in line and force them to work toward a common goal. She used that knowledge to bring the scattered pirates of the Exiled Lands together under her banner.
There were rogues aplenty. Barakkans, Zingaran freebooters, and members of the Red Brotherhood. Exiles all. I gathered them together, and I offered them a promise. If we could work together, I would find us a way back to the ocean. And that was how the Black Hand began.
Under the command of the Pirate Queen, the Black Hand worked quickly to establish a power base in the desert. They set up a tent city on a defensible plateau, which could be reached only by crossing narrow bridges of rock. With the knowledge they had learned aboard ships across the world, they pieced together huge cloth sails to protect them from the sun and the sand. They called their base the Black Galleon, and struck out from it to search for the sea. Of course, pirates are greedy, undisciplined, and easily distracted. They lacked Jameelah's vision.
They claim to be searching for a way out of the Exiled Lands, but it doesn't seem as though they have made much progress. There was a lot of talk about hidden maps and secret treasures. I did not speak to their leader, the Butcher of Khwarazm, but I saw her from a distance. A formidable woman. Whatever these fools who follow her think, she has a real plan.
Despite these diversions, the Black Hand soon established camps across the eastern desert, pushing back the Darfari cannibal tribes and discovering the lay of the land. They followed the great river east, out of the desert, and into the thick jungles where the Lemurians had once settled. And there, past the massive trees and crumbling ruins, they found what they had been looking for. At long last, a shoreline.
Do you see it?
That's a sea out there, or a lake big enough not to make a difference to me. I'm gonna lead this crew down there. Ugh, I can almost taste the salt already.
Although they continued to man the Black Galleon, which was both a defensible position and an ideal spot for finding newly crucified pirates to recruit, the freebooters of the Black Hand soon sent a large expedition to explore the water's edge. Steering clear of the haunted city of Zilha, they found a sheltered cove along the northern coast, which they named Buccaneer Bay. Soon they had scouted as far out onto the water as their bonding bracelets would allow.
We've been to the islands out there. There are ruins on some of them, but not like the ruins we found in the desert. You know, to start with, these ones are human-sized. I think there used to be people living here. And there is still a line of those bloody pillars out there, so we can't see what is on the other side. I shouldn't complain. The gods led me back to the salt water, and that is all I ever wanted.
At the center of the bay, crushed against two great pillars of rock, the pirates found a shipwreck. To the pirate queen, the vessel was a thing of beauty, despite its battered condition. It stood for freedom and escape, a return to the sea. She named it Jameelah's Liberty. The pirates built a great bridge out to the shipwreck, turning the rocks into a fortress and encasing the ship in a scaffold. Perhaps, in time, the ship could be raised and made seaworthy again. For the moment, however, there was much work to be done, and little room atop the narrow rock fortress. And so the Black Hand built the outpost of Flotsam, in the hills overlooking Buccaneer Bay, a tangled warren of narrow streets and sailcloth tents. The closest thing the pirates could build to a dockside town, it plays host to the seedy taverns and back-alley brawls that they most missed from the coastal cities of the wider world. Across desert and jungle, the Black Hand flourished. From a disparate group of lost, hopeless scoundrels, Jameelah had forged a band of hardened outlaws and conquered a significant swath of the Exiled Lands. But there is no honor among thieves, nor limits to a pirate's greed.
Come to gawk at the captain who lost her ship and her crew? Twice the captain, and twice the exile now, thanks to those mutinous dogs. I put the salt back in their blood, and this is how they repay me? Treacherous bastards. The Black Hand only exists because of me!
As captain of the Black Hand, Jameelah had even greater power than she'd possessed as a feared reaver of the high seas. That power drew jealous eyes, including those of her first mate, Athalas. But to seize her position was more easily dreamed than achieved. The Butcher of Khwarizm was a terror to behold in battle, the equal of 5 men at once with a blade. She had earned her name and reputation. But pirates seldom fight fair.
The rules of the Red Brotherhood allow any crew member to challenge the captain. I tried to keep the same tradition in the Black Hand. Any who could best me could take my position. Mutinous cowards didn't even try. They just waited until I was asleep, then chained me to the hull. Never trust a pirate.
Although the loyalties of scoundrels are ever shifting, and are foremost only to themselves, the men and women of the Black Hand felt some lingering loyalty to Jameelah. Without her, after all, they would never have found the sea. It would have been deeply unpopular to simply kill her, and more than that, it would have made Athalas look cowardly and weak. But the traitorous first mate couldn't risk having her return and take her revenge. So he found another solution.
They burned my hands before they cut me loose. Burned them into the twisted flesh lumps you see today. I had to learn everything anew. How to eat, how to fight, how to survive.
Incredibly, the Butcher of Khwarizm did survive. Even with her mighty sword hand maimed, she was strong and clever enough that the Exiled Lands could not end her. From her camp at the Pariah's overwatch, she gazed down at the Black Galleon, watching as her work was stolen away. For his part, Attalus did not benefit from the coup. He vanished, probably knifed in the night. Instead, a new pirate queen rose. Her name was Jameelah. Captain of the Harpy, an infamous reaver ship of the Western Ocean, Jameelah had ended up in the Exiled Lands after the Argosian navy finally caught up with her. Keeping her men in line with a literal whip, Jameelah took over Flotsam and continued the restoration of Jameelah's liberty. She even began to trade with the town of Sepermeru for timber and metal fittings to hasten the ship's repairs. The pirates are still a force to be reckoned with across the wastes, and their grim shanty can be heard ringing out across their fortified camps. Sing, sing to the broken road, paved in the oaths of forgotten men, and blood and bones that churned the sand, the bitter heart of a traitor's den. Behold the swollen corpse's song, croaked from the throats of hanging fools, pattering feet in a rictus jig. Come to the rope, our eager ghouls. Listen now to the wind-swung souls, diving down to the rocks and sand, holding their tongues in bloat and decay, never again to cross the black hand.